All right, we'll get started. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Or I know we have people all the way from France, so good evening, good morning, wherever you're from. Thank you all for joining us today. So this event is sponsored by Northeastern Hillel and Huskies for Israel, which is the Israel club at Northeastern. So thank you all for joining us. Please feel free to follow us on social media to be aware of our future events. And today we're very, very fortunate to have Ambassador Danon, who served as Israel ambassador to the UN for 5 years and who just got back to Israel, I believe, a few weeks ago. And we'll start with this little video introducing Ambassador Danon.
No UNESCO declaration, no empty speeches, no General Assembly resolution will ever drive us from Jerusalem. ולשופט גולדסטון אני בא ואומר, אנחנו לא מקבלים את הדוח הזה.
Why should Americans be concerned that Iran will take this to the next level?
Look what Iran did in the past. They sponsored terrorism all over the world.
למלא באמונה את תפקידי כחבר הממשלה ולקיים את החלטות הכנסת.
It's got to be one of the toughest arenas to defend Israel in, and the man currently taking on that challenge, Israeli Ambassador to the UN, Danon.
Despite the rising voices of anti-Semitism, today the reality is different. Today we have the state of Israel. Use this opportunity to start direct negotiations. If President Abbas was serious about negotiating, he wouldn't be here in New York. He would be in Jerusalem. This is a deed to our land. In this aerial photo that we are revealing today for the first time, you can see the complete transformation of this village into a terror terminal. Jerusalem is our capital for 3,000 years, and no UN resolution can deny our connection to our eternal capital.
Wow, you just said a mouthful there. That was chilling, Ambassador.
We welcome the involvement not only of the US, but other international players, even some of the moderate Arab countries, but you need the Palestinians to be on board. And unfortunately, they prefer to go to France to come to the UN, but not to sit down and negotiate with us. תהילים. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן. אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. We will keep fighting until anti-Semitism is finally defeated. עם ישראל חי.
Please welcome Ambassador Danon.
Shalom, thank you very much for that warm introduction. I want to thank you for hosting me today, and we're going to have the possibility to hear you and to speak about what's happening at the UN, what's happening at Israel. Exciting times when we are signing another peace treaty with another Arab country. And I think what we see today I felt that the UN in the last 5 years that I served there, I worked with many Muslim ambassadors, but it was always behind closed doors, always hidden. And here we are, we recognize publicly the importance of the relationship, and we are excited about it. I had the opportunity to visit the UAE a few years ago, and it was different. It was incognito. We had to fly through Europe. Everything was difficult. And now we are talking about direct flights from Tel Aviv to Abu Dhabi. So indeed, it's exciting. So I will start with being optimistic, even about everything you hear about the UN. I know you hear about resolutions, condemnations, but I'm optimistic by nature. And today, when you actually look at the map, you will see that we have 193 member states at the UN. We in Israel, we have diplomatic relations with more than 160 countries. That's actual places that we have an embassy or some kind of a representation on the ground. And with the rest, with most of them, we have some kind of relationship. So there are only few countries, and they're not the greatest one. Iran, Venezuela, Syria, Yemen, Libya. But with many others, we do work. We work very closely, we cooperate, and I think we will see in the near future more countries joining the UAE. So we are very happy about the decision to recognize officially what we are doing quietly in the last few years. So the UN, as you heard, is hostile. You have anti-Semitism. But I found out that the best way to fight it is to bring our agenda to the UN. So it started with Judaism. I know that you do it a lot in your campuses, but we celebrate our holidays. We invite ambassadors, dignitaries, Secretary General to take part in those events. And that's the best way to interact and not to speak about the core issues, about the Palestinians, about the Syrians, Hezbollah, just having good time speaking about our culture, our heritage. The second part, which is great, is bringing them to Israel. I know most of you came to Israel many times, and you know that once you come to Israel, it's a different experience. So we do the same. We brought more than 100 UN ambassadors to visit Israel, and they fell in love immediately. And also we're exposed to our challenges, opportunities, and many times they felt that we Israelis would like to speak about security, and they like to speak about sustainable development. We take them to see the tunnels, they want to see the agriculture. So I learned a lot that we can actually get their attention by speaking about issues they care about. It can be desalination, it can be water treatment, medical, and other fields that are important to their countries. So I changed the language and we spoke about those issues after that. The third part is the technology. You all believe, we all believe in Tikkun Olam, on making the world a better place. But I can say and attest that we don't do enough on that. So I feel that we should take Israel as a startup nation and make it the Tikkun Olam nation. So basically take the technology, take the knowledge that we developed and show it to the world, help them, whether it's a village in Guatemala, a city in Africa, or a place in Egypt. And we have the know-how. So that's something I'm going to focus in the near future, is to see what we can do to actually get more of our innovation and technology to support the developing country. It's the right thing to do, because first we are helping people. Second, the perspective about Israel will change. And third, for the long run, they will become friends of Israel. So we will get the votes and the support in the long run. So I'm very optimistic about our future. It will not be easy. There will be challenges, but in the long run, when you see what we achieved in short 72 years, it's remarkable. So I want to allow you to ask questions and to have a dialogue, but I can assure you one thing, even if you ask about Hezbollah, about Iran, about all the things that you read about all day, at the end of the day, we are optimistic. Even when you ask the Israelis are one of the most happiest places all around the world. And that's our nature, and that's how we can actually survive and flourish and develop. And this is my message to you tonight, is to stay optimistic, even when you are fighting anti-Semitism or BDS on campus, or you are in the middle of apartheid week that you have to deal with. Stay optimistic, be proud about the country that you represent, the country that you fight for, because when you see at the end of the day, we win and then we move forward and our adversaries, they stay behind. So really now I think it's time for me to be quiet for a little bit and to allow you to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. So yeah, if you have any question, just message me and I'll unmute you. So Austin has a question. Here we go.
Perfect. Hi, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you again so much for coming to speak with us today. It's really an honor. So my first question, or I should say my first main question is, with the rise of China in the UN, many different UN bodies, as you see in the World Health Organization, and with Israel's kind of somewhat friendly relationships with China, how do you see the relationship pertaining to different Israel policies being affected with like China growing as a bigger role within the UN bodies?
So I think China, it's a major issue. Look what happened a few hours ago. In the Security Council, there was a vote about whether to extend the arm embargo against Iran or not. And who opposed the US that came from the US? It was China and Russia. And that's unfortunate because I'm sure they looked on the economical aspects, financial aspects for working with the Iranian. And that's unfortunate because now the Iranians will be able to export weapons, import them to Iran. And they did it already, but they did it quietly, and it was very hard for them. Now it will be much easier for them. At the same time, we work with the Chinese, but we take into consideration the requests coming from the US. When I was Deputy Minister of Defense, for example, we knew that we will not sell any defense technology to the Chinese, and they were not happy about it. But we respect the US for supporting us. So that's why we do that. On other issues, that projects in Israel, it's a little bit harder because we have a democracy. And if you have a tender to build a road or a railroad, and you have a group of companies coming to the tender from Italy, China, Israel, and Japan, you cannot tell them, no, we don't accept you because you have 10% Chinese funding in the tender. So that's something we are dealing with, and we promised our colleagues in Washington to put a committee to discuss how to handle those issues. So we are, very flattered that the Chinese are coming and investing in Israel. But we have to make sure that we protect our interests as well.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is from Natalie.
Hi, thank you so much for speaking with us, Ambassador. Really appreciate it. I was just wondering what your thoughts are on the recent United Arab Emirates, Israel, and US, I guess, peace agreement, you would call it. How do you think this is going to change things?
I think we should all congratulate the Prime Minister for achieving this important peace treaty. We hope it will be signed soon. I'm sure we will see other countries following the UAE. So it can be Bahrain, Oman, maybe other countries. Hopefully also we have countries in North Africa, like Morocco and other countries, Tunisia. So maybe it will be an opening. And I think for many years, the Palestinians said to the Arab countries, don't do anything with the Israelis until we resolve the conflict. And I think now we are changing the paradigm. We are actually telling the Palestinians, the countries will help you to come back to the negotiations. So we will first work with those countries, moderate Arab countries, and then we can actually sit with the Palestinians. I know the Palestinians are not happy about it, but look, in the last 20 years it didn't work. So maybe now with this new paradigm, where we will have more Arab leaders involved, it can help.
All right, so the next question from Karel is asking, how do you confront pervasive misinformation and simplification pertaining to UN resolutions most effectively?
So first, I would recommend to you not to be quiet. If you see somebody lying, confront him. Don't wait for the next day, for the next week, do it on the spot and demand an apology and demand a clarification, even if it's someone from the faculty, from the administration. That's what I did at the UN. I confronted many officials. At the beginning, it wasn't easy, but at the end, they learned that if they are lying, somebody will pay a price for that. I think it's important to have this attitude that you are not afraid to confront and to fight. You gain the respect of your colleagues once you do that. And it's true also for the US. Look at Ambassador Nikki Haley. You know, she came out and she spoke for Israel, and she gained more respect for the US. So it actually, you become stronger when you do that. I think also a very important structure, I would call it attitude, is to approach people that you don't believe you can change their mindset. It happened to me at the UN that I approached ambassadors, I had a discussion with them, and then I told them, let's read the resolution together. I don't expect you to vote with us, but let's just read the resolution. And I found out that many of them never read the resolution they were voting against Israel. So, and one of them, I cannot mention his name, but after we read it together, he told me, that's incredible. I cannot believe I voted on this language for many years. And he called his capital, and he convinced them not to vote against the resolution. That was too much for them, but they abstained. And that was important. So I think having that conversation, and let's actually read what you are talking about, or for example, when they're blaming our soldiers of the IDF, many people were like spreading lies. And I told them, okay, let's analyze it. If you have an example, an incident, give me the facts. I will go back to my friend in the IDF, and I will give you an answer about each and every incident you claim that happened. And in most cases, they never came back to me because they were like spreading and shouting about what we are doing and what we are blamed for. But once you actually tell them, okay, maybe you're right, I'm willing to go and look into the facts, give me the place and the time, if you have pictures, and we will give you an answer. And this is the best strategy to actually confront those who spread lies about us.
Our next question is from Jonathan.
Hi, hello, Mr. Ambassador. You mentioned a new shift of paradigm earlier, and I was wondering if you, with this new paradigm, if you see a possible solution for Palestine and Israel to coexist peacefully.
I hope so. I definitely hope so. I think it will happen only when a leader will emerge from the Palestinian side. Someone like Anwar Sadat from Egypt that emerged in Egypt, and he will recognize Israel, and he will fight incitement and hatred, stop payments for terrorists. Then we can actually negotiate and move forward. I don't think President Abbas is a partner. I have spoken with him in the Security Council many times, and I saw the interaction. He doesn't really care about the Palestinian people, about moving forward. He just wants to stay where he is and come and speak against Israel and travel all over the world with his private jet. That's unfortunate. So maybe we will have to be patient about it until we will find a Palestinian leader that will care about the Palestinian people, will come down, will sit with us, will negotiate. We will not agree about everything, but we will have a dialogue, and hopefully we'll be able to reach an agreement.
Thank you. Our next question is from Maya.
Hi, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I really appreciate it. It's truly an honor. So my question is, why do you think that it's so hard to get the Palestinians to the negotiating table?
I think it's a lack of leadership, because once you negotiate, you have to compromise. Both sides have to compromise. And I think it's very hard for the leadership today to actually come and to compromise and to tell the Palestinian people the truth. Take, for example, the issue of the Palestinian refugees. You know, if you are a Palestinian leader today, you have to tell to the Palestinian refugees that they will not come back to the places in Israel, or not even in the West Bank and Gaza. They will probably stay and live their life wherever they are. So I think that's something that a leader will have to come and say to the people. And they don't want to pay the price. Maybe they are afraid that they will be killed or expelled, and they're not willing to actually confront the reality. So I think once there will be a leader that will be willing to choose realism over rejectionism, then we will move forward. But always when you have an idea, it can be the Trump peace plan, it can be Ehud Barak plans, Ehud Olmert. Every time you had some kind of an initiative, they said, no, we don't want to speak about it. It's easier to reject than to negotiate.
Thank you. Our next question, what are your thoughts on the latest protest against Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel? And are you planning to run for the next Knesset? Are you planning to be Prime Minister, or what are your plans for the future?
So we'll start with the demonstrations. Israel is a democracy, and freedom of speech is a core value in our society, like the US. So probably I don't agree with most of the people who come and protest, but I will fight for the right to do that. Even now when we're facing the COVID-19 and the numbers in Israel are higher than New York City, we will still allow them to come out every week. We don't have any limitations, and they can protest wherever they want. That's a core value in our society. And when you look at the demonstration, there are three groups. The first group, I can understand. It's people who care about the economical situation and they want answers from the government. And I understand them, and I think it's legitimate. The second group, it's people who are not happy with the current government. They are disappointed, either from Netanyahu because they never voted for Netanyahu, or they voted for Benny Gantz and are disappointed that he joined the government and he didn't stick to his promises before the election. So they are disappointed and they come out to express their feelings. The third group, which is the smallest one, it's people who are looking to make a mess, I call it. Some of them are anarchists. It's not the majority, but they get all the headlines, they get all the media coverage, and the language that they use. I don't think they are supporting any of the other groups. So the combinations of those three groups, that's what we are seeing today, and we should respect it. We should respect it, we should allow it. But at the end of the day, if you want to change the government in Israel, you do it in the ballots, not in the squares and not in the streets. So my advice to them is, yes, you should demonstrate. You can do it every week, every day, as much as you want. But if you actually want to change the government, you have to get organized and in the next elections, go and vote for a candidate. But even though it's not pleasant, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the fact that we have a vibrant democracy. When I look at the UN today, most countries will not allow those demonstrations. They will not allow the criticism against the government. And I think we are, both of us, all of us that we are here today, should be grateful for the fact that we live in nations that allow us to express our opinion freely. Regarding my plans, I just landed. So my friend Nikki Haley told me to take my time before I make any declarations. For sure, I will stay involved in public life. when you look at the list of the ambassadors to the UN, one of them became the president of Israel, Chaim Herzog. Iba even became the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Benjamin Netanyahu became the Prime Minister. So I will take any position that you offer me. Among those, I will take it, Eli. But I intend to be involved. I come back with the knowledge, the experience, the relationships with many leaders from around the world, and I intend to put it into work for the benefit of the Israelis.
Very good answer. The next question is...
We will take the last question if it's okay with you, Eli.
All right, so let me look at all the questions. Oh, I feel bad choosing one, but okay. I guess that's a good way to end. What are your proudest accomplishments during your time at the UN?
So I think the fact that I was elected to become the chairman of the legal committee, and I became the first Israeli ever to chair a UN committee, it was a magnificent moment. It was a secret ballot. The Palestinian campaigned against me, but at the end of the day, when we counted the votes, I got the support of 109 member states, and only 44 voted against me. And you have 56 Muslim countries at the UN. So it proved that some of the Muslim countries voted for me or abstained, and it actually showed that we have support. We have quiet, private support, and I think the next challenge is to transform this private support that we have into public support, and not only in secret ballots we should win, but also when we have open votes in the General Assembly.
All right, thank you so much, Ambassador, for taking the time to join us today and to answer all our questions. And have a great evening, everyone. Have a great day, have a great week, and hope to see you soon for another Zoom.
Thank you very much, and keep up the fight for our beloved country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.